To this story, Black Sash has criticised Postbank's technical difficulties and the impact it's had on social grant payments. ATM transactions have been restored, but grant recipients are still unable to transact inside retailers. Hoodah Abrahams-Fayker, the Black Sash National Advocacy Manager, joins us now virtually to tell us more about their reaction. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on eNCA, Hoodah. This has been a long battle in terms of SASSA, right? It went all the way to the Constitutional Court in terms of the previous Social Development Minister, Batabile Dlamini. Yet governments and even the private sector have still not gotten this right.
Yes, it's definitely a struggle. And the challenge is that beneficiaries are at the short end of the stick every time there are challenges being faced. SASSA is responsible for the administration of grants, which falls under the Department of Social Development, who is accountable to respond to these beneficiaries when services are failing to provide welfare services. It is really disappointing and frustrating for Black Sash, who engage with SASSA and DSD on a regular basis to address these challenges faced by social grant beneficiaries. How can old age pensioners not be able to access their grant on the due date with no communication? And the communication that is shared days later is not wide enough and accessible enough to old age pensioners who do not necessarily access social media platforms.
And I think for me also the other issue is that you tell the beneficiaries that they can now go back and withdraw their funds from the post office, but more than half of those branches have been shut down.
Yes, of course, because the post office is under business rescue. So now beneficiaries are encouraged to go to ATMs. There are bank charges attached to those withdrawals. And remember, beneficiaries didn't know that they couldn't access their grants. So they've already traveled to pay points and to try and access their grants and failed. They've had to lend money to go back. Some grant beneficiaries have actually stayed over, waiting anxiously to be able to access their grants. And even though there has been a communication that they can now go to ATMs, how do we know that those communications have reached those that have been affected? So the access to the retailers are not immediate. We are getting feedback from beneficiaries that they are not able to get their monies from retailers yet, which again questions the effectiveness of the communication that is shared so that those affected can get the grants. And the blame lays at the door of SASSA and the Department of Social Development. They are legally responsible. They say that they pay the right grant to the right person at the right time and at the right place. This is not happening. And their partner, they have a responsibility to ensure that partnerships that they make to provide services have the capacity and expertise to be able to fulfill the responsibility to pay social grant beneficiaries. This is not the first time that there's been a systems error or technical glitch. It happened previously, and beneficiaries had to wait weeks before this could be exactly, and they had to wait. It wasn't fixed overnight. They had to wait a while before, and what then happens if beneficiaries can't put food on the table?
Exactly. And also, I mean, the Postbank did release a statement apologizing, but isn't an apology enough?
And it's too late. Because beneficiaries have already taken the step to try and access their grants. And it's not an apology, it's what are they going to do? It can't be reactive to address situations. You rightly recall that there was an issue with a technical glitch in January, and that was their first payment run when the agreement was ceded to Postbank. And they said they were doing a systems overhaul and it wouldn't happen again. SASSA gave the assurance that they are able to, that the session agreement will not affect the ability of social grant beneficiaries to be able to receive the grant. And every time there is an issue, but who has to struggle? The beneficiary.
And also, you mentioned, for instance, about the fact that it is SASSA and Social Development who have a legal obligation to ensure that beneficiaries get their money on the day that they're supposed to, right? And all the statements that we're receiving right now and the communication that I at least have mostly been seeing is from Postbank. So where is SASSA and Social Development in all of this? What are they doing to try and make sure that the technical glitch this time is sorted out quickly? Or are they just renting out their responsibilities to the Postbank alone?
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. Because there is a constitutional obligation on government to provide social assistance. And the department that's responsible to provide that social grants is the Department of Social Development, where SASSA was established to administer social grants with dignity, and they have failed.
And it's quite sad to see this type of failure once again when, the dignity part that you talk about, Hoodah, was mentioned quite extensively by the Constitutional Court. Yet today, for instance, there are grannies who use their last 20 rand to catch a taxi to go get this money, and they come back with nothing.
Exactly. And, you must remember the vulnerability is that they are old. The weather, the fact that they already depend on this grant as a lifeline and may not even have money to get the grant, considering the prices of food and transport, etc. And some of them may need assistance to get to these points to be able to collect their grants.
Hoodah, thank you so much for your time here on eNCA. Hopefully we don't see yet another technical glitch, and this time the technicians are able to make sure that this is not a conversation we have again in future. Black Sash's Hoodah Abrahams-Fayker speaking to us there.